This is March 30th, 2015, and this is the Recruiting New Callers is the name of this. So the explanation was, a part of the future of the success of square dance activity is going to be in recruiting new callers. Tips and techniques for current callers and the club leaders to encourage development of new callers will be shared. The session will present ideas to help to speak to those interested in the art of calling. And I know why I got picked to be the panelist on this, because I've been at the board meeting last year. I went around to all of the members of the board, and I asked when they started calling, what year, and how many years they'd been calling. And the average was above 20 years of calling. And there was a lot in the 30s and 40s. And my point to the board at that time was, we spend a lot of money. We donate money to try to figure out how to make our activity better. To me, I think we're looking at the wrong way. We're looking at it the wrong way. What I said there, I said none of the people on this board, and that was before we had a few of the younger guys on the board now this year, are going to save the activity no matter what you do. Because you can't. Because of your age and experience and whether or not you will change. I said, what in my mind, and I heard this from a dancer, and I heard it from other people when just talking, we need to figure out how to get new callers in the activity that have an influence on our population with the newest things that are happening out there. And it's not going to help it's not going to help for me, but I believe in that the activity has done a lot for me, and I want to see it go on, and I know how good it could be and can be. So that's why they picked me for this. I'm positive. Asked me to do this. Our other panelists are Ozaki from Japan, and I'm glad we have an international person on here, because that's another thing that I'm really trying to impress on the board and on CALLERLAB, that we are international, but we need to do some things that we're not doing. Just changing a book or something into another language is not going to do it. We need to do more than that. And our other panelist is Tom Miller. And I'm not sure why he's on this panel, but don't leave, Tom. I'm sorry. Don't leave. Don't leave. Now, this is going to be what we want out of this. We want ideas of how to do this. Now, I was really happy in the first part of our board meeting when a couple things happened, and I asked Justin to be here, and I've asked Dottie to be here, and she'll be here a little bit later, because of something that CALLERLAB is starting to look at, and I think it's one of it's part of the ideas that I'm looking for, that we're looking for in the activity to help find callers. Before we go any farther, I'm going to ask the panel members here now to just give a little bit of their background and start into their ideas on this.
Would you like to go first? You do, please. Thank you. My name is Tom Miller. I think this is my 42nd year of calling, and I started when I was 3. No, seriously. I was a youth caller. I was introduced at square dancing when I was probably about 12, but because of the location in central Pennsylvania, there wasn't, at that particular time, places for kids to go square dance. It was all geared to the older folks. So we kids weren't allowed to dance. And because of that, within about a year or so later, teen clubs started to spruce up in central Pennsylvania. And I still didn't jump onto the bandwagon at that point to join those teen clubs because mom and dad was involved with camping and so forth. And my mom and dad got involved with square dancing. And at the age of 14, the club decided to let us kids in that wanted to take lessons. And I started taking lessons. Well, for those who know me, I've always been up front entertaining people, whether it's one way or another. And it goes way back through high school. I did the same thing, and when I first seen what the caller was doing, I'm like, wow, I want to do that. And that particular class that I took lessons with when I was 14, we had 8 squares in our class. Now this is going back 73, 72, 73, 72, I guess it was. And out of that particular class, we had 5 new callers. And out of those 5 callers, I'm the only one that's calling to this date. Everybody else just went their different ways as they got older. I graduated high school at 76, but
You don't look at it.
I know. Thanks, buddy. I take care of myself. Anyway, in our high school in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, I actually taught square dancing in the school. So when they pulled out the old vinyl that says honor your partner and honor your corner, remember those records that the schools had and so forth? Well, I was pleased to put those records to the side. Our teacher, said, hey, why not? So we put those records to the side, and I had the opportunity to give some introduction to square dancing. Of course, I'm only 15, 16. When I got out of high school, I was full-time and been full-time ever since. And one of the things that we used to see back in the day, and I made the comment here, is when we had big classes and we had a lot of people coming into our activity, you were seeing a lot more callers, people taking up calling. And you don't see that today because we don't have the 8 square classes. And I come into square dancing when the things haven't been changed. We didn't have no lists. Things wasn't segregated. And our demos were motivates and chain reactions and transfer. That's what we did for motivates. That's what I was calling when I was 15 doing my demos. Now, I started a club when I was 15, and I still have that same club. Okay, it's not as plentiful as it was back 40 years ago, but I still got that club. And within a 50-mile radius from where I live, I can probably count on one hand how many callers we have. We have very little callers. Back 40 years ago, in that same radius of miles, I wouldn't have enough toes and fingers to count all the callers that we had. And it's because of the way that we progressed forward, clubs folding, people went to the military, they got transferred from their job, just little odds and ends. We're in a big coal mining area in central Pennsylvania, so we had a lot. When they started closing down the coal mines, a lot of people left the area. And some of them were square dance callers. And of course, when they left, that was the last you heard of them. And I think in the last 10 years, we've had one caller that started back in the 70s come back to the activity, back to his calling. So it's really nice to see young callers coming into the area, or just up any part of the country, like Justin and Noah and his family, and they're really enjoying what they're doing. I just feel bad for these kids because they haven't seen square dancing the way that Tack, myself, and Jerry had seen square dancing back 40 years ago, when our Saturday night dance was a 40 square dance. Justin and Noah and his family and all the young colors will never see a Saturday night dance with 40 squares of dancers on a Saturday night dance, and that's sad.
They're going to, because we're going to fix this.
Well, exactly, we're going to try to fix it. You know, should I go into my ideas of getting some callers? Let's talk. Okay, Taka-san.
I started calling about 50 years ago, and last year I received a 50 pins. So I think I may be going soon.
Where are you going?
Back to Tokyo.
Can I go too?
So I just really was I saw that advertisement saying that why don't you do square dancing with American military people. So I just decided to kill my Sunday afternoon and went to their military base to join that beginners class. At that time, there is no Japanese callers at that time, and American military people they have their square dance clubs over there within the base. So that caller is like American military people. So I just started square dancing, and I just also show the interest to start calling, because I really liked American country songs, which I could listen to a American radio station. So I just asked that American callers to just let me know how to call. So I just every Wednesday I went to his house to start learning how to call. So they just I would say he just gave me some kind of module, and he said to me just to memorize, head square through 4, right on left through dive through square through 3 kind of things, and they just wanted me memorize that, and started calling. Just one tip or two at the club. So I really enjoyed that, calling. So I have been calling like 50 years already. It's just like just a second. So they still dancing to me. So I'm very happy to that. So.
It's quite an honor.
So I didn't give any history of me when we did this, so I'll just do a real short one. I started calling in '67. I've made a living at this all my life. And I had an adult club when I was still in school. And but what was around is what Tom said. It was a family thing, and it was also, there was a lot of clubs. And when I went to another dance, depending on how many other callers were at the dance, I got to call either a tip or a half a tip. And that's how I learned, and by listening to the other callers. So what we're doing here to get off of this is this. We want ideas of how to find and get people interested now. We don't have the same situation. We've gone past that. Noah has a great one because it's his family. That goes back to the family thing, and that's usually how people get in. Justin, were you dancing with your family then?
Check. All right. People from church got us to go, but previously my family wasn't dancing together. We all learned, my brother, my parents, and my grandmother, we all learned at the same time.
Say your name.
This is Justin Russell from Memphis, Tennessee.
So what we need is ideas. Now, let's just give you a couple of the ones that are general, and you may be able to help us. I know that in Texas, we had a caller who got into the school kids. And if you know much about homeschooling, the parents are very aware that by not going to school, the social ability that they miss has to be substituted somewhere. And the good thing about it is it becomes a family type of a thing. And so this caller started working with some of those kids. And pretty soon, the family started also. In the last 3 years, he's taught 300. And in that situation, he had 2 or 3 of the kids start to calling. But of course, they're going to college and that. What I think we need now is a way that those people who are interested can learn to be callers without having to go to a dance where there's 100 old people, but to get an interest inbred into the people that they know and people that they could see. Church group was another idea to get into that, but not to get them in dancing, to get somebody interested in the calling part of it, because that's the way it's going to spread. Somebody that can relate to the group. So those are 2 areas that have come up: the homeschool kids and the other. Now we want other ideas on this. The reason I brought Justin in, Justin is the chairman for the youth committee, and he came up with an idea, and I'd like him to just generally give his idea of what the youth committee is going to do in the future.
My name is Justin Russell. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. What the youth committee, and we're meeting at 2:30, so it's right after this, and this is one of the things that we are talking about, is trying to develop a online virtual caller school. Since it is the youth committee, it's going to be limited to just youth. We talked about that at the Board of Governors meeting, but I think it would be a good kind of immediate test. We can kind of see what works, what doesn't work. The idea being that when I first attended a CALLERLAB convention, another caller paid for it. They paid for my BMI ASCAP license. They paid for the convention. But not every young person is that lucky. And so what we're trying to do is create a program that would kind of model a traditional caller school, but instead of having 40 hours in a limited amount, a couple days, we would stretch it out over time. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to manipulate everything that you would if you're actually in a classroom setting, but we think through recording yourself with like a video camera and then submitting it into a caller coach, we would still be able to have some interaction, and that would be a way you could remotely, if you are remote, you could still have the benefits of a caller school. Age definition, it varies a little bit. I know the European callers or European dancers say it's a little older. I think they say 25. I think CALLERLAB says 21. I think.
And I think it's a little bit higher than that. 25, I thought it was, and I think the Europeans is a little higher than that. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 29 in Europe. Then it must be 25 for a CALLERLAB.
So that was a good question. Now, when I heard him say this, what it struck me was we are in the internet age, and we have so many new things available to not have to physically do the old caller school routine, and we don't have some of the old things that were good. where you go to dances and get to call a tip. This can be a start, and not only for the teens. I think I can see this as being something that CALLERLAB can do online. And by the way, none of this is going to be easy, and it takes somebody to step forward and do it, and figure out what's going to work and how to do it. But I think when I heard the idea, I thought that's one of the things we really need. We really need that. Okay, go ahead. I'll give you your mic. Red means go.
Bruce Holmes from Illinois. First of all, why on earth just make it for youth callers? I mean, that just...
Because that's his committee that he's in.
I know, but why limit that? Because
well, that's exactly what I said. I think it's better for other too.
My unique value in here is that I'm so new to all of this, and I'm going through the process of training myself to be a caller. And it amazes me that I'm kind of piecing it together here and there, and this comes in. There's no clear path for how you learn how to be a caller. It's not been formulated in a consecutive, sequential, intelligent fashion, and it's just whatever you can pick up, however you can do it.
To answer your first part about the youth online caller school, I have stepped up to the plate to help Justin with that, and over the last year trying to find a company that would host it and kind of put things together. It's just astronomical when it comes to finances, number one. But what we want to do is this is basically the stepping stone to get it started within the youth committee and put it out there as a several-year trial basis just to see what kind of response we get. And then in talking with that committee and so forth, there is all kinds of different avenues for expansion. There's a lot more clientele that we could reach. But right now, being that this is a youth committee project, is why that it's designed and it's called a caller school for youth. But that's not etched in stone, because we are still in the early stages of trying to compile everything. We think we found someone that will put everything in perspective, what we need as far as a channel through the internet that we can go in, whether it's by Skype, whether it's by any of the other media, to go in. Now it's going to take the task of getting some of the accredited caller coaches on board so we can construct and put things into where it needs to be. This is something that's just not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. But there's never been any verbiage saying that this is just going to be a youth caller school online. It is a youth committee project to start with this online caller school. So there's your part A. Part B, CALLERLAB has a caller training committee. It's not the accreditation caller coach committee. This is a caller training committee. And inside that committee, there is a mentoring program, which means that they, if I'm not mistaken, Jerry, help me out with this if I'm off track. If there is somebody in your area that you want to work with, they can come to this caller training committee and get all the information that they need to put somebody who wants to be a square dance caller on the track that they need to be put on. If there's any concerns about the newer callers about that, you can go to that caller training committee. Now, the other callers, if you want to train somebody, you can go to that caller training committee and try to get information in what direction you need to go ahead and teach somebody and become a mentoring person for someone that's starting out to call. I think this year at convention, the caller training committee is putting together an accreditation for people who wants to become mentors. So they have all their ducks in a row to what needs to be done to help someone as a caller. So it's out there, Bruce, okay? And it's kind of in, it's finally getting stepped out of the shadows, and it's going to become visible. It's a newer committee of by what, 2 years maybe? So it's finally getting to come out and step out in the shadows. The good thing about this is for you callers that are calling, and you have someone in your area, or you think you might have somebody in your area that wants to come up as a caller, you could become one of these mentors to help someone along. And you're right. If you're not led to the water as a new person to figure out what to do as a square dance caller, it's sometimes hard to figure out what you need to do yourself. We know that there's caller schools out there, and everybody needs to go to a caller school, but that's not even written in stone that you need to go to a caller school. There's nothing in small print that says you have to go to a caller school. There's nothing in small print saying you need a mentoring person to help you as a square dance caller. But when we're new at something and we're not sure, we look for someone to lead us, someone to guide us, someone that we can go to answers to. And if you know somebody that wants to be a caller, and I guess I'll just step right into this part, introduce them to the area callers and ask for their callers association. See if they're doing any kind of training for new callers. See if they have any ideas where you need to go for some more training. Now I know you've come to the caller school this past November, but you're one of these type of people that you're not satisfied with just one thing. You want to learn more because it's what we get. It's what we do. It's the love of the activity, without a doubt. So when you have that love of the activity, you want more. You want to learn more. So and you need that guidance, okay? I'd be more than happy to check if there's somebody from up around the Chicago area. I told you at the caller school that if you ever need help, I told everybody, if you ever need help, I'd be more than happy to help you out the next several years, whatever you need. But you're right. There is nowhere that you can stick out your hand and someone take you and lead you in the right direction. And that's frustrating as a new caller.
Okay, now, Dell? Whoops.
There is a new caller's instruction manual, and I think they probably have it at the CALLERLAB right here at the convention.
They do. That's correct. Okay, I'm going to bring us back on track. We've gone off track for what this committee is about. What this tells you is that we're trying to set up new and better ways to help callers. Now, we need to know where to get the callers. That's basically what we want to know now. We're going back on track now. I wanted Justin to bring that up because I think that has possibilities of online it being a good way to get people who don't have any other way to do it. Now, think about how are we going to find these people? I give you an idea that homeschool groups, churches, competitions even, where the people that are in the competitions will help instill an idea to some of those people that they could be callers too. And they've got the interest in square dancing. Okay, so we got...
Alan Riggs from Colorado. We hold on an annual basis an open mic night, and we talk about it for months ahead of schedule. And it's just a really fun night. We encourage all the dancers to talk to Bob about, maybe trying a singing call that they really like, or even a round dance. I'll work with anybody who wants to learn how to cue a round dance. He will actually whisper words or figures into their ear, and just to get them on the microphone, and to have them watch the dancers move to what they say. We've spurred several people, and they're now looking into whether or not they want to take it on. But the open mic night, it's just a riot. It really is a lot of fun. We have dancers that are now coming just to see who is interested in becoming a caller. It's really a lot of fun.
And this is great. And don't get me wrong when I say this. The callers that we're getting, new callers like Bruce, are old. Because the dancers are old. And that was going to be my next question to you is, are we talking about the average club in North America, age-wise?
Alan Riggs, Colorado. We're talking about dancers who are as young as 14 who are expressing an interest, and as old as maybe in their 50s. They're empty nesters or nearly empty nesters, and they've are coming into our classes. We're having larger classes, and because now they have time to pay attention to themselves, I guess. But they are they're younger. I mean,
okay.
I'm not the youngest one in the hall anymore.
Now let's go away from the activity. We're talking now. We want to get new people into the activity. Let's forget the activity that we have as existing. We want to get new callers from where into the activity, so they can get new dancers from those places. That's the ideas we're looking for now. So I'm just trying to keep us on track here. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. So tell me other ideas that you might have. As crazy as they can sound, by all of us listening to it, we might be able to figure something out from it. Go ahead. And your name?
Louis Friedlander from Michigan. I was talking to a non-square dancer one time and brought up that the state of Michigan is going to have problems in the near future because we don't have any callers. And he says, how come you don't run an ad in the newspaper or in the local guide? I'm just throwing out ideas, okay? Yeah, there's that possibility. But then you've got to have somebody take them in and train them and see if they're going to stay with it. But it's just like recruiting new dancers. Where are we going to get them from? So it's, it's
a two-way sword. I agree.
Yes.
Noah, are you going to talk to us?
Noah Sigmund, Wisconsin. I don't have your answer, but I can tell you that what happened to me with what happened with them. In my experience with the callers that we've seen come up, so besides two that I brought along, we have three or four young guys also from our area that are calling, and some of them actually went through caller school. They're just not here, and they're only there because they learned how to dance first. And ultimately, and what I think is the most important thing is having a relationship with somebody, and that's why they're going to learn how to dance in the first place. So the day, even back in the heyday, that I wasn't even around for, but I've talked to enough people that were, you came to learn how to dance because someone you were close with invited you to come. So I've never seen, television or radio or newspaper, any kind of ads ever work, because it's about relationships we're talking, because we're people, right? And we want to have fun with people that we like. So a friend invites you to come. That's what it's all about. So for me, I was the only guy in my area. I never had a mentor, but you know what? I found recordings of people, and I ate it up. And I had an outlet to call, which was my grandpa, who was a caller. He never was my teacher, but he would let me call a tip with him once in a while at his club, which is now my club. And you know what? We had lessons. He had lessons going on, and he let me share with his lessons. And then pretty soon I just took the lessons over, because that was my outlet. So every week I was calling. And yeah, I was really nervous, but you know what? That's what pushed me to take it to the next level, which in turn, guess what? The lessons that I was going for, like, I had 6-7 years, they're doing them now. So they're calling every week. And that's why they're at the level they're at, and these other guys too. So they have an outlet. So you have to have an outlet. So you're right. I like the idea of having like an online source. That's great. Ultimately, you need someone to hold your hand. I'm just, you need, look at all of us in this room who are callers. Wasn't it nice when you had somebody who kind of took you under their wing a little bit? I had tons of those people, not maybe locally, but they helped me. And you got to have that. So like what we're doing in our area with these guys, I could stop right now and they continue it going. We have 3 classes a year that we're pushing through. Of those 3 classes a year, every once in a while, because everyone's friends, you guys remember? You'd graduate and be like, hey, you should be a caller. And they're like, oh, no, I don't. Right? It happened to us all, okay? It happened to me because it was in my family, and I was like, no way. And then I heard a recording of a caller who sounded like he was having so much fun. And I said, I think I want to do that. Whatever it is, I want to do it. And I just memorized. It was a recorded dance from Jerry. Not you, unfortunately, but that's all right. But you know what? I wore that tape out, and I memorized that whole dance. I'm not kidding you. And that was my foundation. And because of that, I had the burn, and I wanted to do it, and that's why this is happening. So
in your classes now that the boys are working with you, do you get a lot of younger people?
That's primarily all we have, actually.
Wow, that's great.
Well,
and as soon as we could do this comment here, I want to turn it over to Tak, because I want him to talk about the younger callers in Japan and how they've got involved.
Barbie Ashwell, I'd just like to ask you one quick question, and that is, as you got into this, did you ever consider this opportunity because you wanted to be an entertainer? Because I don't know how many callers look at themselves as entertainers, but you are. You make people's whole evening.
So your question is specifically?
She's asking you.
Why did I learn?
Did part of your drive ever give you that? Did you look at that picture and say, this is what an entertainer would be doing, just in a different name?
Absolutely.
So the question for the tape was, did entertainment value becoming an entertainer ever enter his mind? And he answered yes.
That's how I learned it wasn't entertaining recording.
Right. And the same thing could be said for when Tom and I started, because we were in country areas, and what we don't have in the world today is the sociability of country gatherings and talent shows and stuff like that we used to have. And my mother played the piano, my sister and I both sang, and at a point after I started calling, that was in my entertainment, and I knew that I would never be good enough to become George Strait or somebody. But let me tell you, I got better at what I was doing, and I was an entertainer. I'd like to talk to Taka-san.
In Japan, as you know, Japanese-speaking country, and quite a few, Japanese don't speak any English. So in Japan, we have a so-called All Japan Square Dancers Association. They have their own square dance courses every year, and also not every, but most of all prefecture have their own association too. So those association will hold a so-called square dance courses. Among those square dance courses, there is also chorus course there, and the member of association, mostly square dance clubs, send the guy who wanted to be a caller. So they really have a chance to start calling if they're interested. So most association has a 15 people, 15 dancers of callers to be, and that experienced callers just teach how to call. So in Japan, mostly those callers go to those associations, callers courses. So they're very much organized, and private callers, just we'll have some kind of callers clinic though, but mostly those who wanted to be a caller joined that callers courses.
Tell us your age of your dancers.
Age is kind of old in Japan, and mostly dancers. Most dancers are women dancing. So I would say 80% of square dancers in Japan are really women dancers. So they dance boys' part. Those who dance boys' part just have a ribbon or how to say that, the sash or whatever, and so age is more like average 60s or more than that. I'm just a 75, so.
But you're a young 75. All right, so I wanted you to hear that they have problems also differently, and it's partly the society because the men work long hours. I think is what it is there, but what we I think we all have worldwide the same problem is the younger population is growing up in a different world than what we were, and the situations are different, and we have to figure out a way to get into that different situation. We have to get some of the people interested, other than coming to square dance lessons. The other night I had a brainwave, and I'm going to hit you with this. I haven't said it to anybody, so you're going to be the first one to hear this. What does everybody carry? A smartphone. And what's on a smartphone? Guess what we could do? We're going to set up an app that 4 or 8 people could hook up to their Bluetooth speaker that would be done by somebody that would relate to them, by a younger caller, and explain and maybe even video, show the moves of a few moves, do a song, so that they could get together and do this on their own. If we could get enough people to use that app, and out of that percentage of those, the younger people are looking for something to do. Maybe we would start something. And out of those people, somebody's going to get interested. We've all said, once you start square dancing, you get interested, a percentage become interested in becoming a caller. With Justin's idea that could be expanded, we would then have the facility that's still on this internet thing that's new, that everybody understands that's younger, to learn about it and to become callers. I understand the breadth and depth of this is big. So maybe we have to look for a programmer and figure out exactly how we could do this. I honestly believe that this could be an inroads to a lot of situations. People are looking for this. They just don't know they're looking for this, but they use this all the time. So let's use this. We need to use this. We need to use the new features. And I know that there's a thing on using the social media. There's a committee coming up on that. and I'm interested to go sit in on that. Dottie may not get here because she's in another committee meeting. The other thing that she was going to bring up, she is on the chairperson for the choreo applications, and she brought up at the meeting yesterday that they're going to start putting some of their stuff online. And I want to expand that. We need it online. That's another thing. We don't need, and we need it online in more than one language. It's okay to take a flyer and a book and change the language, but you got to read it. Guess what we do on this? We read on these things, and it's what we're doing. It's what the world is doing, and YouTube and Skype has made it a conversation face to face like we never thought we would have. I just think it's a great idea. I'm not sure how we can go forward, so I'm going to ask for what you think of what I just said. Anybody?
I think you need a lot more clarity about exactly how they're going to use this on their iPhone. It seems kind of like, oh, it's an app, but I don't see the clarity of how they would actually be doing a square dance by staring at their individual phones.
They're going to use that device. In my seeing it, they're going to use the device, and the easiest way to start it would be with two couple movements. Have a section that says, if you've got 4 people, let's do this. We're going to learn this little section here, and we're going to put on one of Lady Gaga's songs as a singing call and have them dance to that, doing the moves. It definitely a lot of work and would have to be put into it. But to get them in it would be using the phone. And then it would have to be set up in such a way so that it would continue to bring their interest in on that and to use it to dance, to learn to dance. And I mean, it's just, I'm on the basics of this idea. And that's why I'm looking for some other ideas. Have you got something else?
Lauren Smith from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. To expand on your thought, Jerry, about the cell phone apps, what does most youth do now? They play games. Make square dancing a game. What do us callers do? Partly why some of us get into it. We like the choreographic, moving the checkers around. Why don't we make a game out of it? And then that will be another step. Like the sky is the limit in what the discussion is about right now.
We've got games already, though. We've got a couple of.
What? On the mic, say it.
There are a couple of programs. I use Caller's Angel, and there's one out in the lobby here that is also very intriguing.
But that's not the type of games I think that he's talking about.
It really amounts to a game. You're sitting there, things move on the screen, you're calling out calls.
We're not talking about having the game that way. We're talking about the instructions come from the app. You still have to take part in the game. It's as if the new games where you put a visor on and that you're there shooting those people. Mm-hmm. That now the app has told you that you're going to have 2 people facing, and you're going to do a right hand pull by and courtesy turn your own. I'm just using this from the top of my head as a game. And guess what? We've changed sides. And if you had 4 couples and you do circle left and men star right and Alaman left, and you've got that far, and a right and left grand, and you won that part of the game. You won that part of the game. Now we did a right and left grand, and you've got 8 people doing this. They're still getting their instructions from the app and from the phone. But you're not playing it on the phone. You're actually taking part in it. And I'm again, like a Wii, except that you do take part in it, and so I can see that would be a way to start. I'm not sure, Jeff.
Jeff Palmer, Colorado Springs. I'd like to ask Noah what he thinks. Having done this and being brought in through a family situation, what do you think would bring, in your case, younger callers to be interested in even get started? Is there anything else besides a family activity bringing them in the way that we talked about earlier, or something like this? Or do you have some other ideas?
I have a two-part answer to that. The first one is every single person that we brought in as a caller in our area, so there's like 7 or 8 of us right now in our southeastern Wisconsin, 100% of them were friends with someone who was a dancer or friends with someone who's a caller. So Lincoln and Jed, I don't know where they are right now, they had friends who, since they're friends with them, they experience Lincoln and Jed calling every week, and they're starting. What else would compel them to go through a 2-day caller school? All right, so that's the first thing. I'm just going to tell you from what we've seen. I don't have your answer. I don't play games on my cell phone. I know a lot of people do. I'm not sure how square dancing would be a game. I'm not sure how that could be fun necessarily. Maybe it's probably possible. But I think the second thing that I just want to say is you guys can speak for yourself. I'm just going to speak for myself, and I've heard stories now. The only reason I started calling is because I got inspired. I wanted to be like somebody that I was exposed to. And I guarantee you it's the same for Lincoln and Jed. I heard Jerry Story say it. He saw Ken Bauer when he was 14. And he said, man, that's so cool. I want to be like Ken Bauer. All right? Right? So that's why, like, these ideas are great. I still feel like we need to go back to the relationship segment part of it and one-on-one people, because you're going to need someone to encourage you along, right? Because it's a tough thing to start. And you're so nervous and you're freaking out and you don't want to do it, but someone you care about says, come on, you can do it. I'll do it with you. We'll do a duet. And guess what? After you start them going, then you can push them out of the nest later. So
I would like, before we're downing in time a little bit here, and Tom wants to talk. Everybody write down one or two ideas on a sheet on how to recruit new callers and pass them to me. All right? If you could do that. Now, Tom has to say something.
Give it to the microphone to Jeff there.
Just real quick, I wanted to ask again, what if there was dancing available in your high school and they did it as like a team thing, and it's high school A versus high school B, and they actually, sorry about that. Anyway, they actually got introduced in school, were able to like choose their team colors, choose their team dress, and had it organized enough, say like football games, basketball games, where they actually had a little bit of competition between the schools in that situation.
Well, then you have to have someone to organize it. And to be frank, the calling that I've seen in schools over the last couple of years, I was embarrassed myself from what I saw. It was pretty bad. So I wouldn't want to dance either if I was a kid, frankly. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, the school situation, and I meant to say this. CALLERLAB has tried to do something in the schools, and we finally just said it's a restriction. There's too many restrictions and requirements to get into that, and so we said that's sort of a lost game because you don't have the control to do it properly. And I must say, Noah, and your family situation was different than a lot of the people around the world. As in, you didn't watch TV, you don't play games on stuff like that. So there's going to be that kind of differences too. We're looking, and nobody's writing. Well, only one person's writing. You're supposed to be writing me ideas, sending them up here. But everything is not going to be this. There's not a general positive one way to do it. It's going to have to be a combination of a lot of things. But at least we're talking about it, and that's the big thing.
We can talk all we want, and we could probably waste a lot of breath and everything like that. But at the end of the day, there's a concern that, take a look at this convention. And look at the younger callers. We can count on two hands how many younger callers. There should be more than a handful or two handfuls of younger people here. And Noah's right. Back when I was learning how to call, the club caller was standing up there, and I went, wow. I wanted to be like that person. And I went to him and said, can you help me? And open arms, without a doubt. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be in the position that I'm in. We didn't have named traveler callers. If we did have a named caller coming through, like Frank Lane or Burl Main or somebody of that nature, we had to travel 125 miles to go dance to that person. So in the area that I lived, we were lucky. Now, as the years progressed forward, then our clubs got bigger. We could afford the traveling callers coming through and so forth. But Noah's right. We looked up at somebody when we were learning how to call. One of the problems that we have today, and this is going to be hard to swallow, is that a lot of the older callers, they don't want to be bothered. They don't want to extend a hand out one iota because you know why? They're scared. They're afraid that there's going to be somebody that's going to be younger that's going to come up the ranks and knock them completely out of the circuit. And so a lot of the guys are just are gun shy to help. I'm open arms. I remember back many years ago going into Chicago with Bob Pointer doing weekends, and Bobby was his son was just a baby, 5, 6 years old, and Bobby wanted to learn how to call, and I went up there quite a bit, and I'm the one that helped Bobby called. Bobby didn't turn to his dad, which for some odd reason, I don't know why, because Bob's a hell of a caller. But Bobby will tell you that there was many nights that him and I sat and we talked choreographic stuff in a hotel room or at their house. It's just what you need to find somebody like that to mentor you, to take you by the hand and look. I remember going to Deuce Williams many years ago at a festival, and I said, Deuce, I want to be like you. Now, Deuce Williams was from up around the Detroit, Michigan area, and he was phenomenal. I mean, he was just incredible. And he was one of the first national callers that I got to see before I got to see Bauer and Shoemake and all those guys, and Frank Lane and Von Parrish and Al Brunich. But he was the first person I went to dance with, and I was just like at awe. And I walked up to him and I says, I want to be like you. Tell me what I need to do. And he said, have a seat. And for the next 2 hours, he sat there and told me everything I needed to do. The problem is that we have with some of our icons in the business, they're not as approachable as we like to think they are. And on the other side of that coin is that some of the callers that's been calling for 40, 50, 60 years, they don't want to be approached. They don't want to help. So we look at people like, well, can I walk up and, someone asked me many years ago, well, how are you friends with all these guys? And I said, well, first of all, I respect what they do. And second of all, I walked up and introduced myself, and if I needed a question answered, I asked. Young callers today don't ask a whole lot of questions. And I'm sure it's because if they're afraid or they don't know how. So if they get approached by someone that wants to learn how to call, they're not sure how to respond to that request. And there really is no avenue for anybody to take onto what needs to be said to that person. These two young guys that was here sat beside Noah, they're pretty fortunate to have someone like Noah in their life. They really are. And we don't know how many other pockets are out there like Noah and his group up in Wisconsin. There may be more out there like that that's family oriented and things like that. We don't know, because it's these kids up there in Wisconsin. They're great. You see them at the state convention. They're dancing. They're calling together, and it's really such a humbling thing to watch. You know, you have the Burger Kids up in Indiana. You know, what intrigued them to get the activity? You know, the thing about it is, with amateur nights, we could ask these people to become callers or try their calling in hand. But at the same token that we want to bring in new callers to bring new dancers in, it's not going to happen. Because you know why? Because their friends are already square dancing. You go to somebody that's been dancing 5 years and write down on a piece of paper and say, give me all the names of the people that you're friends with that doesn't square dance. And I guarantee you, they're going to say, wow, that's going to be hard to do. Because all of our friends square dance. And I know that Jerry's heart and soul is in this, and I admire him for what he's trying to do. But let me tell you something. This is not an easy task. I mean, how do we target outside of our activity / how do we target inside our activity to get new callers into the activity?
So, I don't see you writing here yet. Dottie just stepped in here, and I just want to make sure that I give her a chance to say what I told you I thought she was going to do. There's a microphone right there, Dottie.
All right, so I'm chairman of the Choreographic Applications Committee, and our newest project is to attempt to put online something equivalent to when I started dancing, a book about as big as that one that he's got here, that was written by Sets in Order, primarily by Bob Osgood, to help a caller teach new dancers. And it took each call in turn, started from the beginning, said, okay, first night we need to teach circles, and you would do it this way, and here's some examples, here's the definition, here's the things you need to know, and then it went on to the next call, the next call, and the next call. And what I would like to do is get that kind of thing updated, modernized, onto the CALLERLAB's website as an online resource for new callers or experienced callers or whoever needed it to reference, put together. At the moment we have definitions in one document, PDF document. We have standard applications in another PDF document. We have teaching hints in another PDF document. You can look up diagrams maybe in the definitions, or maybe you have to go and look at terminations to see how it's done. Those things require research time on the part of a new caller. And truthfully, the caller's not learning a whole lot doing that research. They may be once they find the stuff, but doing the research, searching it out on the internet is time consuming. And why not put it together, do it once, get it all in one place so that they don't have to do that kind of thing. They can spend their time looking at the actual information that they need, looking at experienced callers' way of teaching, suggestions on what they do. Of course, the new caller is going to have to turn it into their own vocabulary, but it helps to know what somebody else has done and how they would do it. That's the goal. We're just really getting started on the nitty-gritty of it, and I know I'm sure it's going to branch out because people are saying, well, we need to cross-reference with this, and we need to cross-reference with that, and ultimately, yes. I hope we can get some basic stuff out there first, and so we have something to go forward with, and then look and see how we can make maximum use of our current connectedness.
The reason that I'm excited about it is again, we're talking online, and with videos and other things that could be used along with this thing here, it's going to be so much more available than what Tom and I had back in the dark ages. because the movement has evolved. And I appreciate you taking the time to come in here to humor me with this, but I wanted you to think about this, because I know that the general census right now that I've sort of got from the room is that to step outside the activity is going to be hard, and that we're sort of all at a loss for ways to do it. And that's all right, as long as you're thinking about it. If we don't think about it, then we have lost. If you've got a better way to revive the activity, if anybody had that one thing button we could push to do this, this would be real easy, and we wouldn't be having these discussions. And to sit here and at least think about it, we're in the right direction, and to talk about the different things that have happened, that's good too. But continue to think and talk with other people. Talk with you. Make friends with somebody who isn't a square dancer. I fly all the time, and first of all, they ask me what I do for a living, and when I tell them, they go, "What?" And so I've started to say, "You won't understand." I said, "The first thing you're going to say is, what did I say?" And they'll look at you, and of course they all have their memories of what the word square dancing means, and they said, "Really?" And they do it in this country, and they do it over there, and you make a living at this, and so it's got to be positive things that you bring out into it, and that's what we've started a little bit here today, and I appreciate you coming in here and taking the time to listen and take part in this. And if you got any more, brainstorm a little bit more. The brainstorm is what we're talking about this whole week. Brainstorm about ways that we could do this, because we need it. The activity needs it. Noah? We're running close.
The last thing I wanted to say is, although I'm there for ongoing support for my brothers, they do it on their own. And I don't think I was their source of inspiration. And the reason I want to say this is Jerry Story comes through once a year for us and does a little training thing. But we also have tons of recordings from him. And he, to what you were just saying, how you guys need to step up, he's, just for his credit, he's actually doing that. And we can call him, we can talk to him. He's helped us a lot. But I want, because they're here, from their own words, this is about recruiting newer callers. They're newer callers. And they have friends who are newer callers that they recruited. From their own mouth.
From their own mouth.
Why'd you guys want to start calling?
I am Lincoln. I'm from Wisconsin.
Pause.
It looked like it would be a lot of fun. And yeah, to be a caller. Because we've always been dancing. Other people I know who've done it. I mean, my brother Noah, I've seen Jerry do it. So I was like, oh, I want to do that. That looks like it would be a lot of fun. So then we just learned how. I mean, what else is there really to it?
Same. When I first met the young Swedish callers back in the early 90s, and it was fairly new in Sweden, square dancing was, and of course what they did, I'm not sure, they wanted, the English in Sweden is approached as being they want to do it, they want to talk English, and they took the Jerry Story records and memorized them, and in the old days, you could tell which caller they adored by the way they called, because they sounded like that caller, and that's how they started. So anyway, our time is up, and I appreciate all of you coming here. Thank you very much. And I want the ideas dropped off before you leave. Okay? Thank you very much for being here.